Claire grew up in a small town outside Portland where life was calm and simple. She'd never dreamed of riches or fancy shops. Her greatest joy came from moments that most people might overlook. She loved walking by the river at sunset, feeling the wind on her face, and hearing the water flow. More than anything, she loved laughing beside Ethan. He had been her friend since college. A young man with sharp eyes, restless energy, and a quiet kindness that drew her closer every day. Ethan was not rich back then. He lived in a tiny room and spent long nights working on a project he believed could change his future. Laptops, papers, and wires filled the space, but somehow Claire never minded the mess. She saw in him more than a dreamer. She saw a man who could build something from nothing without losing his heart. Their love was not built with expensive gifts or perfect dinners. Often they shared sandwiches while sitting on a bench at a crowded park. Sometimes they stayed up talking until dawn, keeping each other awake with stories and plans. Claire would tease Ethan about his stubborn drive, and he would laugh and remind her that she was his best reason for not giving up. When Ethan finally asked Claire to marry him, it was not inside a luxury hotel or under shining lights. It was late at night after hours of work and tired smiles. He reached into his pocket and gave her a simple silver ring he had saved for. There was no grand performance, just a quiet promise spoken with sincerity. Claire accepted with tears in her eyes, not because of the ring, but because of the man who gave it. Their love was already stronger than wealth. Years passed, and life changed in ways Claire could never have imagined. Ethan's late nights filled with sketches and codes slowly turned into a company that grew larger every year. He became successful, and people began to speak of him as one of the most powerful men in the country. Yet with all the wealth and power, Claire stayed the same gentle woman she had always been. She still loved small things such as baking cookies on quiet mornings or planting flowers in her little garden. Even with maids and drivers around, she liked to do those things herself. One cool afternoon in autumn, Claire decided to stop by a jewelry store downtown. She was not going there to buy anything grand for herself. Her goddaughter had a birthday coming, and Claire thought of finding a small necklace to make her smile. She walked inside the shining store where chandeliers sparkled above in polished cases, displayed diamonds and rubies. The moment she entered, the staff noticed her plain dress and simple shoes. Instead of offering a warm greeting, the clerks exchanged quick glances and smirked. Claire paid no attention but stepped closer to the counter and asked if she could see a dainty bracelet. The clerk raised his brow and answered in a voice that carried hidden scorn. He told her that the bracelet was very expensive and suggested she'd look at cheaper items near the back. A second clerk whispered to the first and chuckled under his breath. Claire felt her cheeks grow warm but kept her composure. She thanked them softly and turned to leave. Outside, her heart ached, not from the insult itself, but from how easily people judged others without kindness. She walked away quietly, not knowing what the next day would bring. The next morning, the jewelry store was bright with early light. Clerks polished the glass cases, arranging diamonds so they could catch every sparkle. Customers arrived and the staff straightened their ties, ready to impress. None of them expected the surprise that waited outside their doors. A sleek black car stopped in front of the store, and from it stepped Ethan, the man whose name often appeared on the covers of financial magazines. Everyone inside froze as they watched him walk forward with calm steps. Beside him was Claire, her hand gently tucked in his. The same woman they had mocked the day before now stood in her simple elegance. And the weight of their mistake hit the clerks at once. The whispers in the room died away, replaced with a silence so heavy it seemed to press against the walls. Ethan greeted them politely, his voice even, yet his presence filled the space far more than any jeweled necklace ever could. He did not raise his voice or show anger. He simply looked at the faces that had smirked at Claire and spoke with quiet strength. He told them that kindness was worth more than diamonds, and respect was not a thing sold in shining cases. The clerks shifted in shame, wishing they could undo their words from the day before. Then Ethan asked Claire what necklace she had wanted to see. The staff scrambled, their hands shaking as they brought forward the exact piece she had asked for. Ethan paid for it on the spot, but he did not choose the largest or most expensive jewel in the store. Instead, he purchased the modest necklace she had wished to give her goddaughter. The moment was simple yet powerful. Every clerk felt the weight of regret settle deeply in their hearts. Ethan placed the small box with the necklace into Claire's hands, and she looked at him with eyes that carried both love and gratitude. She remembered all those nights when he had worked until dawn. The smell of soldering wires in the air, and the sound of his tired laughter when she told him to rest. To her, he was still that same man, even now that people bowed in respect when he stepped into a room. The clerks stared at them, unsure whether to speak or hide, waiting for anger or revenge. Yet none came. Ethan did not use his wealth to crush or embarrass them. Instead, he spoke again with calm but steady words. He told them that the worth of a person could never be measured by clothing, by shoes, or by appearances. He reminded them that his wife was the same woman who had stood beside him when he had nothing. No amount of money could replace that kind of devotion. His tone was gentle, but each word carried truth that struck harder than anger ever could. Claire held on to his arm, her chest warm with pride. She had seen many people change around wealth, becoming distant or cold, but Ethan had only grown softer. He understood that power meant nothing if it was not paired with kindness. She looked around the glittering store filled with gold and diamonds, and for a moment, it all seemed so small compared to the bond that tied them together. Ethan then turned to the clerks, thanked them for bringing the necklace, and wished them well. His grace left them speechless. The staff lowered their heads, not because of fear but because of true shame. They realized that they had mistaken humility for weakness and had insulted a woman whose quiet dignity was more radiant than any jewel around them. Walking out of the store, Claire held the box carefully, as if it contained something far greater than silver and stone. Beside her, Ethan smiled, the same smile he had given her years ago on a quiet night with nothing but promises between them. That was the moment Claire felt, more strongly than ever, that wealth had not changed their hearts. Their love remained louder and brighter than riches. The day after Ethan and Claire left the jewelry store, news of what had happened began to spread. A customer who had witnessed the scene told others, and soon the story made its way across town. People spoke about the billionaire who could have humiliated the staff but chose instead to teach them with gentleness. They spoke about the wife who wore simple clothes, yet carried herself with grace greater than any crown. Before long, the tale reached newspapers and business circles. Everyone began to repeat the lesson hidden within it. For the staff who had laughed at Claire, the regret was heavy. They could not forget how quickly they had judged her. In their minds, they replayed every careless word spoken to her, wishing they could take it back. They realized that the woman they had insulted was not only married to one of the most powerful men in the country, but also a woman of great kindness. The sting of regret showed in the way they avoided one another's eyes whenever her name was mentioned, while others talked about it as a story of wealth. To Claire and Ethan, it was never about money. It was about respect, humanity, and the strength of love. That evening, they sat on their porch overlooking the garden Claire had planted by hand. The air was calm, and the quiet was broken only by the sound of leaves moving in gentle wind. Ethan placed his arm around her and asked if she was happy. Claire smiled and said she had been happy from the start. From the days when all they had was hope and an old silver ring, the jewelry store incident faded from the headlines eventually. But its lesson lived much longer. Those who heard it understood that value is not shown by diamonds, but by the way one treats another. For Ethan and Claire, the moment became just another page in their journey together. Their empire was not the company he built or the fortune he earned. Their true empire was found in love, loyalty, and respect, things that no amount of money could ever buy. They carried that treasure with them wherever they went, stronger than gold and brighter than jewels.